Every company out there is racing to deploy AI agents. And the promise, it's incredible. We're talking about intelligent, autonomous systems that could completely revolutionize how we work. But what happens when this gold rush ends up creating more chaos than coherence? We need to talk about this because a lot of companies are building a huge problem they can't even see yet.
I mean, listen to this. Tech leaders like Microsoft's Satya Nadella are predicting a total shift in how enterprise computing works. And look, we're not just talking about a new app or a slightly better chatbot. The vision here is a future where literally millions of digital agents become the new heart of the enterprise, all capable of reasoning, collaborating, and acting for us. The stakes, they couldn't be higher.
Okay, but let's get real for a second. That grand vision, it's not quite matching the reality on the ground. Instead of this beautifully coordinated system, what's actually emerging is something experts are calling Agentic Mush. It's this fragmented, untraceable sprawl of isolated bots that don't talk to each other, and they're creating way more complexity than value. It's like a digital traffic jam. And honestly, it's holding the whole revolution back. So let's really unpack that. What is the gap between that incredible promise we just heard and the very real peril of this mush that, well, most companies are accidentally creating? So what makes this mush so bad? It really boils down to this. Most AI agents today are built like one-off science experiments. They operate in total silos. So the sales agent has absolutely no idea what the supply chain agent just learned. That leads to duplicated work, for sure, but it's also a massive security nightmare. When you have no observability or traceability, you can't see what's happening or why it's happening, which completely destroys any trust you might have in the system.
So, how do we fix this mess? The answer isn't to build fewer agents, it's to connect them intelligently. And that brings us to the core idea we're talking about today, the Agentic Mesh.
The Agentic Mesh is the answer to the chaos. Just think of it as an enterprise-grade ecosystem for all your agents. It's this foundational layer that gives them a unified place to run, a control plane to govern them, and a trust framework, so they can all work together securely. The key thing here isn't about just adding more agents. It's about making the ones you have actually work together as one cohesive system.
Maybe the best way to picture it is as the AI nervous system for your whole company. It's the thing that connects every single agent and organizes them into managed groups we call fleets, and lets them communicate and act in a totally coordinated way. Just like your nervous system allows for reflexes and awareness, the mesh lets the entire enterprise think, learn, and respond as one single entity.
So how do you actually build this AI city? Well, you need some key infrastructure. You need a marketplace, which is kind of like a city directory or an app store where you can find and deploy agents you can trust. You need a registry, which is where agents get their verified IDs so they can find and authenticate each other securely. You absolutely need robust observability tools for security and governance. And finally, a shared communication fabric so they can all talk to each other without you having to build custom connections every single time.
Of course, an intelligent city is only as good as its citizens, right? A mesh requires a totally new standard for the agents themselves. They can't just be clever little prototypes, they have to be enterprise-grade.
So what does enterprise-grade even mean for an agent? It's not just about being smart, it's about being a reliable, trustworthy part of a bigger system. It needs to be discoverable so other agents and users can find it. It has to be secure using modern standards like MTLS. Think of it as a secure digital handshake. It has to be observable and reliable so you can actually monitor it and trust it to work predictably. And finally, it has to be collaborative and completely traceable, logging every single action and its reasoning. These aren't just nice-to-haves. They are the absolute foundation of a system you can actually depend on.
This is where the real magic happens. Now, I know this diagram looks a little complex, but the idea behind it is super simple. We're moving away from managing individual agents, and we're starting to manage fleets. These are cohesive groups of agents organized by what they do. Think about how software evolved. We went from writing single functions to using libraries and APIs. This is the next leap.
We stop reusing lines of code and we start reusing entire capabilities. That's how you get incredible scale.
A huge piece of making this all work is a fundamental shift in how these agents talk to each other. I mean, you can't have thousands of agents making direct calls to one another. That way, well, that way lies madness.
The difference between the old way and the mesh way is just stark. The old way is point-to-point chaos. Every new connection is a custom, brittle integration, and you very quickly create this tangled spaghetti architecture. It's impossible to maintain or scale. The mesh way uses an event-driven fabric. A much better way to think of it is like a shared highway system. Agents publish events, and other agents subscribe to the events they care about. This decouples them, letting them collaborate without being hardwired together. It's elegant. And what's so important here is that this isn't some futuristic, unproven idea. The Agentic Mesh is built on the shoulders of giants. It uses well-established, robust patterns that already power the modern cloud. We're talking about proven concepts like microservices, event-driven systems, and zero-trust security. We know this stuff works. We're just applying it now to build the next generation of intelligent systems.
Okay, so the architecture is solid. We get it. But what does this actually mean for the business? Why should a leader care? Let's pivot from the how to the why and look at the real-world impact.
Look, this isn't just theory. Early adopters are already seeing massive results. Take logistics, for example. Companies using autonomous agents connected in a mesh to handle things like transportation and supplier collaboration have reported up to a 40% improvement in on-time deliveries. 40%! This isn't a small tweak, it's a game-changing competitive advantage. And this really gets to the heart of it all. The goal isn't just to automate a few tasks. It's to evolve your entire organization into an adaptive system of intelligence. The companies that embrace this model won't just be more efficient. They'll become organizations that remember, collaborate, and improve with every single interaction. They will simply outthink and outrun the competition.
So the mandate here is pretty clear. The question is no longer if agents matter, but how you're going to harness them at scale without creating total chaos. So let's talk about the path forward.
And the good news is you don't have to boil the ocean here. You can start small, but you have to start smart. First, pick one critical, high-value workflow to prove the concept works. Second, deploy an agent gateway immediately. Make security, policy, and observability totally non-negotiable from day one. And third, and this is the most important step, you have to shift your mindset. You've got to stop thinking in terms of isolated bots and start architecting for a truly intelligent, interconnected system.
And that really brings us to the final critical question you should be asking yourself. As this huge wave of AI agents arrives, being ready is what will separate the winners from the laggards. So you have to take a hard look at your strategy. Are you deliberately building a scalable, governed, intelligent network? Or are you just adding more to the mush? The choice you make right now will define your future.